Election 97, Fianna Fáil and Fine Gael celebrate big gains. The PDs and Labour lose heavily. Minister Niamh Bhreathnach among the casualties. A hung Dáil is likely as independents, including Michael Lowry, poll well, and Sinn Féin take a seat in Cavan Monaghan. A very good evening to you. With first count results from 39 constituencies and 4 completed counts, the outcome of the 1997 general election is almost certain to be a hung Dáil, with neither the Fianna Fáil Progressive Democrats alliance nor the Rainbow parties securing an overall majority. Although both Fianna Fáil and Fine Gael increased their vote, the junior partners in the alternate coalitions, Labour and the PDs, have suffered a big slump. Among the Labour deputies who've lost their seats are Minister for Education Niamh Bhreathnach and Junior Minister Joan Burton. The Progressive Democrats leader Mary Harney and the party's former leader Des O'Malley have been fighting to retain their seats. Smaller party candidates and independents have done well. Michael Lowry has retained his seat in Tipperary North. Sinn Féin has won a seat in Cavan Monaghan. Joe Higgins of the Socialist Party has been elected in Dublin West. Independent candidate Jackie Healy-Rae has topped the poll in Kerry North. And Harry Blaney is expected to be elected in Donegal North East. This is the state of the parties with the time just after 9 o'clock. Fianna Fáil on 28 seats, Fine Gael on 19, Labour 4, Democratic Left 1, the Green Party, Trevor Sargent in Dublin North 1, Sinn Féin 1, and others 2. And the share of the vote with, as we said, 39 first counts in, Fianna Fáil 39.3, Fine Gael 27.9, Labour 10.4, almost half their vote in the 92 election. The Progressive Democrats 4.7, DL 2.5%, the Greens 2.8%, Sinn Féin 2.5%, and others 9.8%. The Labour vote has dropped dramatically, particularly in Dublin, where 2 of its ministers lost their seats. Other casualties included Helen Keogh of the Progressive Democrats in Dunleary, where a vote management strategy paid off for Fianna Fáil and Fine Gael, with each getting 2 seats. The Fianna Fáil leader Bertie Ahern was returned in Dublin Central with almost 2 quotas.
Big news in Dublin is that Labour's Niamh Bhreathnach has become the first cabinet minister to lose her seat. Fianna Fáil were the beneficiaries here, with Mary Hanafin getting a 2nd seat for the party. The Education Minister conceded defeat earlier in the evening.
No reflection at all on the team work done here by the Labour Party in Dunleary, and we'll be here for some while yet.
Also in this constituency, Helen Keogh of the PDs lost out to Monica Barnes of Fine Gael.
Well, unfortunately, in this instance, I believe I just got squeezed out by a very, very successful vote management campaign on behalf of Fianna Fáil, and I must say a resurgence in Fine Gael. Fine Gael had 3 seats here before, they went down to 1, and now they've come back to 2. I'm very happy in particular for Monica Barnes, I must say, my good friend.
Niamh Bhreathnach also blamed vote management by the larger parties for her defeat.
Election, I think we've seen here in Dunleary a swing towards the government, and still a government minister losing a seat. The vote management of the larger parties was very well handled. But I have to say I had a terrific campaign, and I know me and my workers will be back to fight another day.
Earlier in the evening, another Labour woman, Junior Minister Joan Burton, lost her seat in Dublin West to Socialist Party candidate Joe Higgins.
I would also say that the Labour Party will start working tomorrow to regain the Labour seat in Dublin West, because I believe during the last 4.5 years we did many things to change Dublin West from a place of unemployment, from a place with very little investment in education.
There was a spectacular result for Fine Gael in Dublin South West, with Senator Brian Hayes heading the poll.
Outside Dublin, Labour's Dick Spring had a huge personal vote in Kerry North and was elected with almost 1,500 votes to spare on the first count. Labour's Willie Penrose headed the poll in Longford Westmeath. And in Mayo, Fine Gael look like they'll return 3 deputies in that new 5-seat constituency.
It looks like a triumph for Fine Gael in Mayo. It was always going to be a hard fight in this new constituency. 6 TDs are chasing 5 seats. The Fine Gael vote is up by 9%. Michael Ring topped the poll with a spectacular 10,000 votes. For Fianna Fáil, Beverly Cooper-Flynn looks set to win this time. If that happens, she'll be the first female TD in the county. That would leave 3 sitting Fianna Fáil TDs fighting for just 1 seat. In Kerry North, Dick Spring topped the poll, that despite the general collapse of the Labour vote. His colleague in Westmeath also bucked the trend. Willie Penrose managed to increase the Labour vote there. Jack Wall in Kildare South could become a Labour gain, but John Dardis of the PDs has been eliminated in that constituency. In Limerick East, Willie O'Dea of Fianna Fáil topped the poll. Labour's chairperson Jim Kemmy could be in trouble, a casualty perhaps of the party's decision to run 2 candidates. The former PD leader, Des O'Malley, is also under severe pressure this evening to hold on to his seat. In Cork South Central, Labour TD Toddy O'Sullivan is also in difficulty. He topped the poll in 1992. Now his vote's been halved.
But it didn't happen overnight that the Labour Party came under sustained attack from independent newspapers without reason. Dick Spring has the reason. I think he owes it to democracy following this outrageous editorial that we had during the week regarding voting patterns in this country.
The Fianna Fáil vote is up in Cork North Central, but the Greens in Cork generally, despite high hopes, have had a disappointing run.
And one other result which has come in within the last few minutes, we're told that Tony Gregory, independent, has been elected in Dublin Central. Among the other winners this evening is the independent candidate Michael Lowry, who was the first deputy elected in his North Tipperary constituency. Sinn Féin's Caoimhín O'Quailán and Kevin Monaghan and Joe Higgins of the Socialist Party in Dublin West have also been returned. And in Kerry South, independent Jackie Healy-Rae topped the poll, ahead of John O'Donoghue of Fianna Fáil.
One of the biggest surprises of the day came in Kevin Monaghan with the election of Sinn Féin's Caoimhín O'Quailán. He polled 1,600 votes above the quota.
Sinn Féin is totally committed to seeing a peace process in place that has the necessary dynamic to move us all out of conflict. That's our commitment to the electorate, not only in Cavan Monaghan.
Establishment takes people for granted and tells them they shouldn't do this and they shouldn't do that. Sometimes people have an awful lot of sense, and the people of Cavan and Monaghan have showed extremely good sense yesterday, and we're seeing the result of that today.
In Tipperary North, the polls were proved right with the election of former Fine Gael minister Michael Lowry. There were scenes of jubilation in Nina when he headed the poll, but he remained tight-lipped about his intentions when he enters the 28th Dáil. In Donegal North East, Harry Blaney, brother of former Fianna Fáil minister the late Neil Blaney, will take a seat. He's an independent but will support Fianna Fáil. Joe Higgins of the Socialist Party romped home to top the poll in his constituency of Dublin West. He told RTE that he would not support either Fianna Fáil or Fine Gael in the Dáil.
Not support either of the 2 right-wing dominated blocs because they do not have the solution. There will be a strong fighting voice for the ordinary working people and unemployed people of Dublin. So you'll be a man.
While in Kerry South, another independent Fianna Fáil candidate, the colourful Jackie Healy-Rae, won a seat. It's believed he carried a large portion of the youth vote.
Well, despite the fact that the final result is still far from clear and that a hung Dáil is still the most likely outcome, Fianna Fáil have been insisting this evening that Bertie Ahern will be the next Taoiseach. So what does the man himself have to say? A few minutes ago, our special correspondent Charlie Bird spoke to Bertie Ahern.
Bertie Ahern, can I ask you, it's still early in the evening, it's just before 9 o'clock, but how do you feel?
I feel very good, actually. It's been a great campaign. It's been a well-organised campaign by Fianna Fáil. Our vote across the country is holding up very, very well. I think when all of the first counts are in, our first preference vote will be up, way up from the last election. I'm very pleased with the Dublin situation, needless to say, and the Cork one. I think in the end of the day we're going to do very well in Cork as well. We'll have our gains. I think we could well have 10 gains. We'll have 1 or 2 losses, unfortunately. And in the end of the day, we're going to have a lot of independent candidates. I think we could have up to 10 independent or smaller party candidates, and that will be something to contend with. But I think we knew that from a long way out. I mean, our strategy was that we would maximise the Fianna Fáil vote, that we'd have our gains, that we'd win back the capital, that we'd pick up ourselves in Cork, and hold the strong vote that we had in many other constituencies. Now, inevitably, as in elections, there's a few surprises that perhaps we only worked out during the campaign what was happening. But, you know, the last time we lost a lot of seats near the end, so it'll be into the middle of the night or maybe tomorrow morning before we'll see how they'll finally flicker out, and they'll be important seats.
Now, on a previous occasion, you were within 12 hours of becoming Taoiseach. I know it's still early days yet, but do you think that you're going to make it on this occasion?
I certainly hope I do. I don't. I said throughout the campaign to Charlie, I'm an optimistic person rather than pessimistic. I think I'm more optimistic now. I'm very, very happy. Needless to say, it would have been nice if Progressive Democrats and ourselves were clearly over the line. But, you know, a lot of people are talking about their seats as if they're gone. They've only had one, Helen Keogh, who's been a very good public representative, that's gone. All the others are still in thereabouts. And there are very few seats gone at this stage that you can really say this is what will happen. And we saw 8 seats in the dying hours of the night go against us the last time. We only won 1 of 8. So to put a final figure on it, it really, you might as well be talking from opinion polls as first counts, and I know that from experience.
Are you going to start doing deals all over the place?
Well, you know, I'm not going to start doing deals. I think we have to look at what way the support is. If there are independents there, clearly many of the independents that I think are going to get elected are people that are personally known to me and certainly very well known to Fianna Fáil. But I think we have to be clear, you know, about, I ran this campaign and fought the mandate and the very good result that we're going to get on the basis of cutting tax, cutting crime, bringing peace to Northern Ireland. And they're the kind of issues that I will be talking to people about when I'm talking. I'm not going to go off into all kind of extraneous issues.
But you do believe that if things keep going the way they are over the next 10 or 12 hours, that you'll probably shade it, albeit in a minority situation? Yeah, you know, it's very hard. If you say at this stage Fianna Fáil and Progressive Democrats will clearly have over the numbers, well, you know, you'd have to start saying, well, will that happen? It'll be tight enough to it. But, you know, it could happen. We could be a few short. If we're a few short, there are many options. I think I've far more options than the rainbow at this stage. So I feel happy. I feel very satisfied with the campaign. I feel very grateful to the thousands of people across the country who worked for this Fianna Fáil result, and I'm very happy with all of those people who voted for us, and needless to say, to people who are winning, and I wish them congratulations, and those who are losing, I commiserate with them regardless of what party they're from. There was one other spectacular success today for Sinn Féin in Cavan Monaghan. They've taken a seat from you. I mean, would you be looking for their vote? Well, I'm not very happy at losing the seat, quite frankly. Anne Leonard did exceptionally well, but you know, it's the old thing about elections, and I'd say to Anne, Anne is young. She fought a great campaign, over 6,000 votes. In many constituencies, Anne Leonard would have safely a seat tonight. But in a competitive constituency like that, she didn't. So she should not in any way feel down. She should just look that on her first run out as a young person, that she's an extraordinarily good result. Unfortunately, we've lost that seat to Sinn Féin. Sinn Féin, I suppose, put a lot of effort into winning that seat, and you know, it's a democratic victory for them. But what will they do? Do you think they'll support you? Well, that's a matter for them. You know, I've been very clear on the position about that. Which is what? The position, just to restate it again, that I would not go seeking the Sinn Féin vote. I wouldn't refuse support from anyone elected all Ireland, regardless of where. And the reason for that, as I was asked previously and by many northern and international stations, until Sinn Féin have a ceasefire and are moving totally in the democratic framework, then I couldn't go out and start seeking that vote, or any other vote by anybody who is still engaged in violence in any way, and we have to be clear about that. We're Democrats. We believe in peaceful ways, and we can't sign up to violence and in any form, and we're not going to. So, you know, that's a matter for Sinn Féin. They know my position. I'm the only party leader that has continued to talk to them over the way, and it's a good success for them, and I'd have to say I just hope that they will see it as all of their other successes this summer as a vote for them to be moving into a democratic way permanently. You're a happy man? I'm very happy, Charlie, and it's not, I suppose I'm happy. You and I have been talking in every constituency in the country over the last 3 weeks. It's nice to be back in Drumcondra tonight. Thank you very much. Thank you. Give me the tape straight away.
Charlie Bird talking to Bertie Ahern just a few minutes ago. Well, joining us now from her Dublin South West constituency is the Progressive Democrats leader, Mary Harney. Good evening, Mary Harney. Can you hear me?
I can, yes.
Have you got any indications from around the country of just how bad it's looking for the Progressive Democrats?
Well, I think it looks as if we're only going to win 5 of our outgoing 7 seats, and that's very disappointing, and I'm particularly disappointed for Maureen Quill and Helen Keogh, who were outstanding Dáil deputies, that they should lose out on this occasion. And I want to commiserate with both of them. I feel very bad about that.
What went wrong?
Well, I think we got squeezed out by both Fianna Fáil and Fine Gael. I think in the last week or so people moved to the larger parties. They were looking at either a Fianna Fáil-led government or a Fine Gael-led government. And also there was better vote management by both Fianna Fáil and Fine Gael. Our vote went up in this election by about 0.5%, but still we lost seats. We lost seats to better vote management by Fine Gael and Fianna Fáil in Dún Laoghaire and Dublin and Cork North Central.
You've also long said that the PD's mission is to be radical or redundant. Do you think perhaps that by tying yourselves so closely to Fianna Fáil you ended up being redundant?
Well, I think the way the alliances operated in the election, there was no alternative. Clearly we set out to fight the election as an independent party, but it became very obvious to me early on in the campaign that it was going to be the Rainbow versus the opposition. And in that scenario there was no other choice. There was 2 choices for government: the outgoing Rainbow with the support of the Greens and Independents, or the opposition, Fianna Fáil and the Progressive Democrats.
Do you expect at this stage to be in government?
I don't know what the final figures will be, Brian. I mean, I've been following the counts that the Progressive Democrat people are involved in so closely that I haven't really followed some of the others. But I still think yes. From what I see and the way the last seats are going here in Dublin South West, for example, both myself and Conor Lennon are going to get elected, so it'll be 3-2 from this constituency. And I think a lot of the transfers are breaking well for the opposition, and I think on the day, yes, that probably will be the case.
Just a final question. We've heard Bertie Ahern, at least it seemed to me, he was ruling out doing any kind of a deal with Sinn Féin for their support. If they offer their support, then it would be accepted, but no deals. Would you be happy to serve in a government which was supported by Sinn Féin, even though there wasn't a deal for that support?
Well, ideally I'd like to be in a government that had a clear mandate, that had an overall majority in the Dáil, and that would still be my wish.
Mary Harney, thank you very much indeed for joining us from Dublin South West. We're joined now from the RTS Count Centre by the Minister for Agriculture, Ivan Yates. Good evening, Ivan Yates.
Good evening, Brian.
Fine Gael has done well, but Labour have let you down.
Well, this is the best election in 15 years for the Fine Gael party. We've gained 12 seats and we think we'll lose 3. We think we'll have a net higher position of 55 seats, and I think it's an enormous tribute to our campaign team right across the country and the presidential style of campaign that the Taoiseach involved himself in. Obviously it's tinged with great regret that loyal and trustworthy and honourable colleagues who have been very good performers in office have lost their seat, but I honestly believe that on the latest computer predictions that we have in head office, that we'll win a minimum of 79 seats and the maximum that FFPD will get is 78. So we're still confident of forming a government at this point in time.
What about the fact that Fianna Fáil is taking some comfort from the fact that a number of the independents would perhaps more naturally lean to Fianna Fáil and a Fianna Fáil PD alliance?
Well, I think our strategy will be to follow what the Taoiseach did at the end of the campaign, to go for a one-nation society, an inclusive society. I think it swayed people at the end of the day. We don't want the type of divisive politics that the PDs put forward in this campaign and which the public have rejected. And I think that we have showed that we can manage a tripartite arrangement, that we act cohesively, we trust each other, we don't have votes in cabinet, and I think that people will realise that give and take type of approach is what will best serve the country in the years ahead.
Do you think perhaps that Labour suffered by their association with Fine Gael in perhaps the same way the Progressive Democrats did in relation to Fianna Fáil?
My own view is that they got a transient, fickle vote, particularly in Dublin. It went to Garrett, it went to Desi O'Malley, it went to different people at different times, and the one certainty is it doesn't stay in the one place for subsequent elections. And I think that it's not that the Labour Party did anything wrong. I think their performance in government has been extremely credible. It's simply that that floating vote does not stay still.
Ivan Yates, thank you very much. We're going to Tralee now, where we're joined by the Labour Party leader, Taoiseach Dick Spring. Good evening, Mr. Spring. You can hear me, I trust.
Good evening, Brian. I can hear you perfectly.
Well, as Ivan Yates said, you didn't do anything wrong. You played your part, but the voters didn't seem to be impressed by it. It's been a pretty dismal day, hasn't it?
I think it was Frank Lusky who said that when he lost his seat, that when he was asked why he lost his seat, he said he didn't get enough votes. Let me firstly, Brian, I enjoyed success back in 1992. Let me congratulate the Fianna Fáil party and indeed Fine Gael for very good election performances. I think while Mary Harney and myself were fighting the battle on perhaps the back pitch, the two major parties fought it on the main pitch, and they've been the victors today.
And Labour now looking at perhaps having its Dáil strength halved. That's pretty well as bad as it could have been, isn't it?
It is, yes. I felt that we should have been able to get about 14% of the vote nationally. I thought we would safely bring back about 26 seats as a minimum. That hasn't happened. We've had a few unlucky situations. We're going to squeeze out a number of constituencies where I would have said we had bankers. But then, as I think Ivan Yates just said there's a volatile floating vote out there. We got it back in 1992. It certainly has deserted us in large numbers in 1997.
So what's going to happen now? Who's going to form a government?
I wish I could answer that, Brian. I think there's going to be a lot of analysis over the next few days. There are still a lot of seats to come in. It does strike me that there won't be a clear majority for either the Fianna Fáil PD combination or for the Rainbow, but obviously all to be played for still.
There is one clear majority, of course, and that's for a Fianna Fáil Labour coalition.
I thought you might mention that, yes, but I think I ruled that out on a number of occasions, and I think I answered that question many times during the election campaign. I'll be meeting with my parliamentary party next week to assess the situation, and as I said, there are still two very large parties in Dáil Éireann, of course, who have also a very large majority.
And does that assessment that you'll be conducting include assessing the prospect of going back into government with Fianna Fáil?
No, it doesn't.
So you're ruling that out absolutely?
Brian, how many times do I have to say it?
Just once more.
Yes, Brian, I'm ruling it out, absolutely.
Thank you very much indeed.
Does that satisfy RTE?
Indeed it does. Thank you for joining us from Tralee. Enjoy the rest of the evening. Democratic Left, the third party in the Rainbow, appear to have done pretty well in the election. A short time ago, Caroline Erskine asked the Democratic Left leader, Proinsias de Rossa, how he would rate the performance of the Rainbow.
A lot depends on what has been gained and lost in other constituencies and who is gaining the seats that are being lost by the Labour Party. In some cases there are gains for the Rainbow parties, and in other cases there are gains for Fianna Fáil. The PDs are losing seats. I understand that Helen Keogh has lost her seat in Dunleary, and that is a gain for Fine Gael. So it's still on the cards that the Rainbow coalition could be returned to office.
We've heard from the leaders, we've heard from constituencies around the country. Let's hear from our own results centre here at Montrose. Joining us there with all the figures and his analysis of the results so far is our political editor, Donal Kelly. Donal.
Well, you know, Brian, since 1992, when Labour went into government with Fianna Fáil, the message from successive opinion polls was that the voters were waiting for them in the long grass. And the count provides startling evidence of that. The seats that Labour gained back in 1992 have returned to Fianna Fáil and Fine Gael. Indeed, Labour looked like dropping to around 17, which is slightly more than half of the number they won in the last election. So, once again, it seems the Labour Party can never emerge quite unscathed from participation in coalition. But whatever about Labour's woes, it's been a good election for the two big parties. Fianna Fáil, with a small increase in its vote nationally, benefited from Labour's poor showing in Dublin, where through careful vote management they picked up crucial seats. Fine Gael pushed up its vote and won additional seats to wipe out the memory of a bad showing in 1992. But as we've been hearing for the Progressive Democrats, it's been a nightmare election. The hope for breakthrough never came. Many of their sitting TDs were struggling to retain their seats. Two are gone. And indeed, some of the controversies they generated during the election, public service employment for instance, clearly came back to haunt them on polling day. The Greens failed to make their mark too, although with a bit of luck they could get 2 seats, while Sinn Féin will be happy that they've finally got a deputy to make their case in the Dáil. So, looking at how the parties shared the vote, we see Fianna Fáil with 39.3, Fine Gael with 27.9, Labour with 10.4, the Progressive Democrats with 4.7, the Democratic Left with 2.5, the Green Party 2.8, Sinn Féin 2.5, and others got 9.8. And the changes since 1992, Fianna Fáil, as I said, just a slight increase in their vote. Fine Gael up 3.4, Labour down, I can't quite make out the figure, it's probably 8 to 10% anyway. Democratic Left, we don't have the PDs there. Democratic Left are down about 0.3 of 1%. The Green Party up 1.4, Sinn Féin just up by about 1%, and others up 3.2. And the swing from the government nationally is 5.8%. So all of that means we're looking at a very indecisive result. Fianna Fáil will end up with around 75 seats, Fine Gael with perhaps 55, Labour around 16, 17, the Progressive Democrats perhaps 4, although Mary Harney was predicting 5, Democratic Left 4 or 5, And all of that means that the Greens, Sinn Féin and independents of various hues, though it must be said mostly of a Fianna Fáil colour, will decide who governs in the 28th Dáil.
Donald, thank you very much. Of course, more on the election after this programme. Our coverage continues throughout the evening. And now with a look at today's sport, here's Claire McNamara. Claire.
Thanks, Brian. We begin with soccer, and Republic of Ireland manager Mick McCarthy was this afternoon handed a 2-year extension to his contract by the FAI. The new Board of Management, at its first meeting in Athlone, voted overwhelmingly to keep McCarthy until the end of the European Championships in the year 2000. And word just in, Macedonia have beaten Iceland 1-0 in their World Cup Group 8 qualifier, that of course Ireland's group. Next to racing, and Mick Cannan had a disappointing derby day at Epsom Downs. Cannan, on board red-hot favourite Entrepreneur, could only manage a disappointing 4th in a race that saw Benny the Dip score John Godston and jockey Willie Ryan their first Epsom Derby success. We join the action with a quarter of a mile to go.
In the Vodafone Derby, the 2 in second place Forest Silver Patriot. Entrepreneur, the odds-on favourite, will not be winning from that position, but it's Benny the Dip, clear by a line 5, 2 in second place Silver Patriot, who's eating up ground. Into third goes Romanov, Entrepreneur early 4th, and Patery on Silver Patriot, putting in a power finish. Giant strides, the greatness, Benny the Dip holds it at the line, it's on the run. A photo Benny the Dip and Silver Patriot to Romanov in third.
And confirmation of that derby result. First, number 1, Benny the Dip at 11-1. Second, number 10, Silver Patriarch at 6-1. And third, number 9, Romanov, 25-1. In Gaelic games, there was one championship match this evening. Offaly finally overcame Westmeath by 114 to 7 points in their Leinster football replay, that at Cusack Park in Mullingar. In tennis, Eva Maioli is the new French Open women's champion. The 9th seed was the surprise winner of the Battle of the Teenagers at Roland Garros. She ended the unbeaten run of world number 1 Martina Hingis in straight sets 6-4, 6-2 in today's centenary final. The Croatian's powerful forehand proved too much for an off-form Hingis, and the 19-year-old picked up her first Grand Slam title. Next to rugby, and the Lions have lost for the first time on their tour of South Africa. They were beaten this afternoon 35-30 by Northern Transvaal in Pretoria, and they were never in the lead, having fallen 11-0 behind early on. Jeremy Guscott scored 2 tries for the Lions, Gregory Townsend got 1, and Tim Stimpson kicked 15 points. In golf, Colin Montgomery leads the European Grand Prix at Slaley Hall by 1 shot on 11 under. Paul McGinley is the best placed Irish challenger on 5 under after 67 today, while Pádraig Harrington had 72 for 3 under.
Well, now, the one party leader we haven't heard from yet in this election, since the counting started at any rate, is the Taoiseach, John Bruton, but we gather that he has had something to say for himself this evening, and Joe O'Brien is standing by at the count in Navan in the Taoiseach's home constituency. Joe.
Yes, Brian, a statement has been issued on behalf of the Taoiseach in the last few minutes, and in that statement Mr Bruton says it's now clear that Fine Gael is poised for its best election performance in 15 years by winning at least an extra 10 seats. Mr Bruton congratulated what he called the diligence and effectiveness of the Fine Gael organisation on the ground. He said it was a combination of top quality candidates and effective vote maximisation that lay behind the party's good performance. But he said it would be inappropriate to make further comment until the outlook becomes much clearer.
When things do come a bit clearer, he will make his way to a microphone and to a camera. That, though, is the news this Saturday night. The main news again, the outcome of the 1997 general election is almost certain to be a hung Dáil, with neither the Fianna Fáil alliance nor the Rainbow Coalition securing an overall majority. On this programme, the Fianna Fáil leader Bertie Ahern said he was very pleased at his party's result. He predicted a gain for Fianna Fáil in the new Dáil of between 8 and 9 seats. The state of the parties right now is Fianna Fáil 31, Fine Gael 22, Labour 5, Democratic Left 1, the Greens 1, Sinn Féin 1 and others 4. That's all from us. Our coverage continues, but from all in the newsroom, a very good night to you.